with the royals, could defender of the faith become surrender of the faith? Prince William may become the first British sovereign in 5 centuries to break official ties with the Church of England and refuse the monarch's role as its supreme governor. According to a new royal book, the heir to the throne reportedly feels no difference to the average Brit about worship, despite admiring and respecting the institution. Palace insiders claim the prince fails to share the king's sense of the spiritual, let alone the late Queen's unshakable devotion to the Anglican Church. She described Jesus Christ as an inspiration and an anchor in her life, who taught her to seek, respect and value all people. Speaking to TalkTV, royal author Tom Bauer described the revelation as deeply concerning.
And I find it really quite depressing, because I do think that the king must be the defender of the faith. I think, if anything, what's really happened is that Prince William has become disillusioned with the Church of England, because the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, has been such a disastrous archbishop who's been deeply, deeply embarrassing in his role.
Well, sorry, Tom Bauer, but you're wrong and out of touch with the country, because if we look at it, the way the numbers are going for people who are actually active in the Church of England, just parishioners going to church, by this time next year, that's going to be down to 2.4 million people, 8.4%. And the numbers are going down again and again and again. In terms of attendees, in 2009, it was 654,000 people attending services a week. Now it's down to 228,000. Christianity in this country, and this is not because of immigrants coming over. If you want people in this country to be Christians, anyone can go to church. Absolutely anyone. People in this country are choosing no longer to go to church. I go to church every week. I'm a Catholic, not part of the Church of England, of course. But William's right. William is a modern king, or modern prince. He'll be a modern king. He's in touch with how the country feels. Most people in this country do not give a monkey's about going to church.
But how can you be head of the Church of England?
But he won't be. That's it. He'll step away from it.
So that makes a mockery of the Act of Supremacy in 1534, doesn't it? When we divorced from Rome and from those, those Catholics.
Well, it's 500 years old.
Yeah, well, I know.
I know you're trying to take us back.
No, I'm not. No, we're very
through the kind of Middle Ages.
No, it's all about newfound freedoms.
It's a very old law. I mean, I'm with sort of JJ up to a point. I mean, Prince Charles, of course, King Charles, is very ecumenical. He wanted to call himself defender of faiths, which riled people like David. But
it did.
At the coronation, for example, we had people of all faiths, rabbi, imam, at the coronation. I mean, this book is written by JJ's friend Robert Hardman. You remember the royal author that we discussed extensively on Monday, and nobody could remember his surname. He is actually a friend of mine, but before I knew that it was his book, I thought this is utterly pointless speculation, because William, God willing, will not be king for another 15 or 20 years. And the idea that he wouldn't be defender of the faith or do the right thing, even if he's not particularly church-going. A lot of people, weirdly, I mean, I do often go to church, but I'm not really a believer. I go for the kind of meditative ritual, reading the Book of Common Prayer, the 17th century version, you'll be pleased to know.
I'm very impressed, Ed.
Yeah, thank you.
Terribly impressed.
Yeah.
I
It's your
do
kind of book.
It is my book.
I just wonder if this is a little bit 2 + 2 = 5, in that we all know that the Queen, as JJ said in his introduction, was deeply, deeply religious. Her faith was incredibly important, if not the most important thing to her. She was a devout believer. She said her prayers every single night before she went to bed. She spoke to men and women of the church.
Every time she appeared in The Crown, she was praying before she went to bed.
But Harry wrote in his book that she did pray every night, so I think that's we can kind of take that bit as read. We know that Charles, very, very different attitude, deeply spiritual, but into all of it. He studied the Quran in great detail. He knows, he's into all of that stuff, all the different faiths, which is why he wants to be.
He's probably a Buddhist.
He probably is a Buddhist, and he's very into sort of the Muslim religion as well. William's just not really into any of it. But that's the sort of natural progression, as JJ was saying, of how people have changed in their attitudes towards religion over the years.
I think that's probably true, but for me, I would be really concerned about this in terms of what it means for our national identity and who we are. I don't think we should think of this as a trivial matter or some kind of superficial thing that is all because most people don't go to church anymore. I mean, the church is at the heart of who we are in our history, and it would be a huge thing for this to no longer be the case, wouldn't it? I mean, where does it leave so many of our traditions? Where does it leave our cultural identity?
But which
it doesn't
traditions?
necessarily...
I'm not saying you're wrong, but just to push you a bit, which traditions would it really affect? And if you look at other countries, their heads of state are not the head of their church, and yet they can be quite deeply religious.
Well, we're not like
countries.
other countries. I mean, I think the whole idea is that we aren't like other countries. We do things differently. I mean, our royal family is pretty unique, and we saw with the Queen's death just how, you know, there were countries that sort of described her as Queen of the world. So, look, I accept that we're not where we were on the world stage, but I just think this is not a... It's not a minor matter about becoming more modern.
But why hold up a tradition that the majority of the country, a small minority of this country, actually practice? That if you like, you're saying this is part of our tradition. Most people, the vast majority, do not hold the tradition.
Sorry, I was going to say, don't you think he will grow into that role?
Yes, he will.
As he becomes closer to being monarch, he will realise the gravity of the situation, how important that role is as being monarch.
Henry VIII wanted to get his leg over a few more times.
Oh, hold on, JJ. You've gone too far now. I mean, that's why I go to church. Exactly the point Isabel made, which is it's allowing me to commune with our traditions, which are important.
And you'll find fewer and fewer people doing as you do it.
No, I'm afraid that's going to change.
Well, then the church needs to do a better job at reaching out.
Do you go to church every week, David?
Not every week, but I do go to church.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Good. Well, that is a whole nother debate as to which ones of us go to church that we haven't got time for right now.